Holosky podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Monday, Holocult. You know what that means. You've chosen us to start the work week off, which is about as good as you can get on a Monday.
I agree.
This week, Kyle is jumping in with what he told me earlier is intergalactic issues.
Yep.
So I'm hoping it's just out in the spans of the universe and corn's just playing in the background.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, I'm stoked.
Episode over.
We have solved it. But before we can get into that, we got to get through all the business. So check us out at all social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast and you'll find us there. Come join the community, be part of the Holocult. It's a good thing to do. It's a fun time, a great community. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like for us to feature on a future Thursday show, Kyle's got some info for you.
I do. It's easy. It's in the show notes, as always. But if you don't know how to read, it's okay. I'm here to verbally assault you with the information, and that is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Write your story out. Send it over there. We put it into our expert, patented filing system, and then it becomes a show. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
It is state of the art.
Absolutely.
State of the art filing. Done so by myself.
That's why it's patented and copywritten.
Yeah. Holocult filing system.
Yeah.
Called just throw shit in a folder. You're not good at what you do. If you'd like to support the show, which I'm sure you do at this point, there's plenty of ways you can do it. We have a Patreon where for a mere $7 a month, you can get all kinds of goodies. All sorts of good stuff. There's almost 50 extra episodes over there. You get early episodes, ad-free episodes, exclusive casket breath drops, and coupons to run through the store. I know what you're thinking. Store? What store? holoskypodcast.com. There's a merch store. You can check out some t-shirts, some hats, some stickers. We got all kinds of goodies over there. So definitely go check that out. The best thing you can do is share the show word of mouth. Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. Whatever you can do to get our name out there. Speaking of that, going to get some more QR code stickers printed out if you'd like to put boots on the ground as part of the Holocult Street team. Shoot me your address and I will gladly send you some Holosky slaps whenever I get this next bunch in. You guys came out in droves the first round, so I ran out pretty fucking quick. Was ill prepared for the Holocult, so that's on me. But we have a lot of addresses that are still need to be fulfilled, and I'll get there as soon as we get the new ones in. That being said, you can also go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review, and when I find it, I will gladly shout you out. This week's 5-star rating and review comes to us from our friend Sirobin. Sirobin says, "Keep it up, 5 stars. I just ran into your show. Keep up the good work. You guys had me on the edge of my seat." Well, Sirobin, first off, thank you for the kind words and the 5 stars. It helps out a ton. Second off, stoked that you found the show. It's cool that we still have people, even 5.5 years into the show, coming across it.
Trying to figure out who we are.
Yeah, we don't even know who we are.
Not even close.
Not even close. But again, thanks, Sirobin, for taking the time to leave us some kind words. We're glad you're here. Welcome to the cult, my friend. And on that note, Kyle's taking us to an intergalactic corn concert.
Yeah, we are about to show you how we do.
Freaks on a Leash.
That's right. It's a solid song. So, per my last episode with the codename Spartan, I was hoping to find lots of information on this ever-eluding intergalactic space trade. It sounds extremely compelling, and so that's, like I told you, that's what I'm going to be trying to dig into. I haven't found yet an awful lot of exact information on said subject. However, I'm looking at this like a big rabbit hole at this point, because as Steve has seen, I've literally got like 40 plus tabs open on my internet browser,
It's
and
ridiculous.
and I am going to just start pulling at this thread and seeing where it ends up. So I have no idea the amount of episodes I'm going to get into with it. I'm just going to keep going until I just run out.
Until you become the leader of the intergalactic space trade.
I mean, I'm not mad at that because I'm going to sell a fuckload of burritos, baby. Which we could all, if you can get behind those burritos, we're definitely, we're in the same place. But, so, like I said, in the end, I'm looking for stories about Antarctica being the space hub and where it goes from there. But the information that I have been able to find, first, what I'm going to start off with, and this is going to be an erratic clusterfuck. So buckle in and do your best to keep up with where my brain goes.
That's kind of our thing.
It is kind of our thing.
Not being prepared and not having a real system to anything.
Yeah, and it's just not fun to have this overarching plot line 24/7.
Who needs a plan?
Exactly. Plans are for noobs. So anyways, I found an article that would suggest the NSA is mostly behind this supposed interstellar transport and that there is an actual space hub down in Antarctica. There was an Eric Hecker, a Raytheon contractor who worked at the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica from 2010 to 2011. And he says that this observatory constructed at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is nothing more than a massive air control power station that it has the ability to monitor all interstellar craft being operated by humans and non-humans. So it's essentially like a massive radar, and I think it has the ability to lock on to their gravitational distortion is what it does, and then it allows them to see all crafts around the entirety of the planet. Whistleblowers have also come forward reporting massive military underground bases in the area, which apparently our NSA friends have an office there, which also has a hand in monitoring interstellar activity. It's this office that is reported to handle the trade as well. Several other whistleblowers from the United States military have come forward from different branches of the military to also make same claims. So it's interesting that different people within different branches of the military, seemingly unconnected to one another, are starting to come out and making these claims, which in a roundabout way brings a little bit more validity to these claims.
This Ice Cube Lab Neutrino Observatory is bonkers.
I didn't get too much into that.
Bro. Okay, so I'm looking at a diagram of it, and you have this, like, whenever you look at it, you have this little building, not very big, on the top of the ice. This thing goes 2,820 meters below the ground.
That's a good one. That's a good distance.
For reference, specifically in this diagram, the Eiffel Tower.
Oh wow, it's itty bitty.
Is 324 meters.
That's crazy.
It is huge.
That is crazy.
It has a bunch of string sensors and optical sensors that I guess pick up vibrations and different shit. And they even have deep core ones that are optimized for low energies. Which, I mean,
interesting.
In the grand scheme of things, you think of energies and frequencies that we can't pick up. And it's almost like they built this to specifically pick up shit like that.
Weird.
Yeah. That's a deep sumbitch.
It is. And I know that in some of my 40,000 tabs, I know that I have things pulled up on that. And more from, I am going to dig a little bit more into this Eric Hecker and see what he's got to say about everything. I just didn't start pulling on that thread yet. But back to the NSA, It's said that the NSA has been tracking UFOs since the 50s, which makes sense with the 47, so on and so forth, and has the ability to track any and all UFOs on Earth. Supposedly, which is going to be one of the many tie-ins that I hopefully am able to follow here. Supposedly in Alabama, which is the same area we covered in the Amy Eskridge case and the Huntsville Space Agenda, but in the same area, they're training pilots from around the world to fly interstellar craft under supervision of the Nordics, the Nordic alien race. So supposedly, the Nordics are here to help us learn how to fly said crafts around the universe. So
Classic
they're
Nordics.
they're being a little bit helpful.
Probably for their own benefit.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm sure. So from here, we start laying out different dots and seeing if we can get any more connections. As I'm digging around, I'm pulling up as much as I can, specifically on Antarctica and what's going on. I found an article that got me. I cannot even begin to express to you how motherfucking excited I was when I pulled this article up. So I've never heard anything like this before, but it's right up my alley.
Let's go.
And I think Steve's gonna like it. I think you guys are gonna really fucking dig this. So, like I said, I'm digging up on all this shit, and as I'm digging up, I'm literally pulling up anything and everything that can be connected to Antarctica and space, and I'm literally just clicking on internet links, opening new tabs, boom, 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 just open as many as I can, and I start reading this particular article, and this article is going to suggest that the Russians are working with Saudi Arabia and are moving an ancient device / weapon to Antarctica. Sounds pretty fucking rad, right? It was found under the, I think autocorrect fucked me on this, but the Al Haram Mosque, Majad Al Haram Mosque. They're apparently are calling this device, which makes me so fucking excited. They're calling it the Ark of Gabriel. Tell me that doesn't sound fucking awesome.
That sounds hard.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. It sounds fucking epic. So apparently this device is not mentioned in the Christian Bible, and it isn't to be confused with the Ark of the Covenant. Apparently its legend is that it has wreaked havoc over centuries. Unfortunately, this statement here, which I was really fucking excited about, I did not find information alluding to this havoc that would transpire over the centuries. However, this object has ties to both Christianity and Islamic faiths, being that the Archangel Gabriel is sacred to both. When the Roman Catholic Crusaders pillaged Constantinople in 1204, the Eastern Orthodox Church was able to make off with a manuscript from the Hagia Sophia Cathedral. Its title, Gabriel's Instructions to Muhammad. In this document, it details that the archangel gave Muhammad a message while in a cave near the holy city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia. It tells of a box, an ark, that holds quote unquote tremendous power and belongs only to God. This was forbidden to be used until the resurrection day. Until that time, it must be buried within an altar within the place of worship of angels before the creation of man. Which to the followers of Islam, this place would be Mecca. So this ark was supposedly buried, or supposedly so waiting for the end of the world. However, because of the ever-growing amount of people that attend the Grand Mosque to pray, they have to keep expanding the area to accommodate so many people. So as they're doing this construction, apparently they accidentally uncovered the Ark of Gabriel, which has been buried in secret for thousands of years. On September 11th, and keep in mind, a lot of this information that I'm seeing in regards to this sudden movement in and around Antarctica, a lot of weird things are happening around 2015 forward. Not that there isn't dates that we are going to cover that are behind 2015, but there is a lot of oddities that start coming to surface around 2015. But on September 11, 2015, a crane falls within this construction of the Mecca, causing 107 casualties, including the 15-man crew, and injuring over 238 others. People start connecting conspiratorial dots to the unearthing of the Ark and the accident. However, the spokesman for the presidency of the Grand Mosque and the Prophet Mosque said that a strong sandstorm, winds, and torrential rain caused the toppling of this crane and hurting so many people, which you 100% could see that situation playing out, but it would take a lot of all of those things to make a crane fall over, right? However, according to a report from the Russian Ministry of Defense, it says that the crew tried to remove the Ark, and as they were doing so, they were killed by a plasma emission that spewed from the ground with so much force it actually knocked the crane over, causing the disaster.
And
this is from a Russian MOD report.
It is weird that, for example, prior to this 2015 disaster, right? The most deadly incident of a crane collapse was in New York City in 2008, and it killed 7 people. 2015's incident, according to Wikipedia, the mega crane collapse, killed 111 people and injured 394 others.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Oh. Let's get into something a little bit crazier.
That is insanity.
All right. So if you think that's weird, Steve, wait till you hear this part. So 12 days later, disaster strikes again. 3 days into the Hajj, millions gathered from across the world to worship. Everybody, please wrap your fucking brains around this. A quote-unquote stampede of people whose origins have yet to be explained killed anywhere from 2,400 to 4,000 people. The authorities within this situation claim that an unknown stampede caused this accident. However, people are also saying that it was another plasma emission that killed these people after another attempt to unearth the Ark. And mind you, in the manuscript, it is basically stating that this Ark must be left in this location and shall not be used until the end times.
That's strange.
All right. So that's weird. It's all strange. Now we have some things that are even fucking weirder. So now we merge in the Pope, the Russians, and the Patriarch Kirill. In 2015, Russian naval ships were seen docking in Jeddah. After the second accident, the Grand Mosque emissaries decided they're like, all right, we are not going to fuck with moving this Ark anymore. There is some fuckery going on behind it, and we have to take more precautions. Especially imagine the second attempt killing 4,000 people, right? So they reach out to the Patriarch Kirill, who, by the way, is the current leader of the Russian Orthodox Church. They reach out to him because they were actually the ones in possession of Gabriel's instructions to Muhammad. And they figured that within these instructions, there's most likely information on how to properly move this object. If that isn't strange enough, 2 months later, the heads of the Russian Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church met for the first time in 962 years. That's insane.
That is
all surrounding this one event. The first time in almost 1,000 years, these two
that is
met up. It's fucking nuts. And apparently during this meeting, it said that the Pope gave the Patriarch Kirill vital information that had been missing from the manuscript, which had been stolen at one point in time. So I'm sure the Vatican was able to recover a stolen portion of this manuscript. As soon, and I'm not exaggerating, but as soon as this meeting was over, the Patriarch Kirill travels to Antarctica himself to perform a ritual using these ancient documents. Now, while the Russians moved this thing to Antarctica, they had several powerful naval ships guarding this thing. But they also launched fucking satellites to monitor the progress of said convoy. So they had destroyers and massive military naval ships making their way down to Antarctica. And if that isn't enough, they launched literal fucking satellites into orbit to properly monitor this thing, the whole entirety of its cruise down to Antarctica. So whatever is on that convoy is of significance.
Pretty important.
Right.
You'd think.
On top of all of this, when Putin found out about this, he immediately sent these ships. They're all right. We gotta get going here. And as soon as the ships began their movement, so the ships are in formation, satellites are launched. They start their journey down to Antarctica. Within, what was it? I want to say within like 2 days of this convoy's movement, Putin started bombing ISIS targets in Syria. So the question was, these targets that were being eliminated within Syria, was this a smoke and mirror situation? Was it a situation to mask the movements of these naval ships down to Antarctica?
Makes sense. It's a very upper echelon government movement there.
Yeah. And then in regards to the year 2015, think about in our last episode, Codename Spartan, they came out blowing the whistle in 2018. So there's a relatively close series of years in regards to all this movement down in Antarctica. And on top of all of that, I would argue that seemingly all these countries involved and institutions on the surface have issues with one another, right? We have the Pope working with the Russian Orthodox Church. Apparently, Russia and Saudi Arabia at the time had smoke with each other.
I'm curious to see how the United States has its fingers dipped into that. You'd think they'd be right there.
They probably are to some degree. It isn't. I didn't find any information on it, but I would almost guarantee because we know the United States government is in Antarctica.
Yeah, and with our history with Saudi Arabia, how much time we spent in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure our heads were notified of it. On top of all that, like I said, I would argue that all of them had issues with one another, but is this a common goal situation? Is this a desperation situation where they're like, all right, I know we're at each other's throats right now, but we need to get on the same page for this situation. Or is it the grand masquerade, so to speak? I mean, contemplate that all the governments are on the same page. It's just they have a script to follow on the grand scale. Who knows? And that was all I could essentially find on the Ark of Gabriel at the time. Maybe I'll stumble across something in the future and I'll bring it up.
I saw a book when I was Googling. I'll have to,
because I did, like I said, I pulled up a shitload of tabs, and it might be because I have tabs that are pulled up that are massive stories. There'll probably be an episode all on their own. So it's hard telling if we revisit the Ark of Gabriel. I hope we do, because it has my attention.
Yep, there's a book called The Ark of Gabriel and the Secrets of Antarctica.
Oh fuck, I'm probably gonna buy that book. Yeah, I really. But isn't it crazy to think that if that's true, why are they moving the Ark of Gabriel to Antarctica?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In such a curious time, whenever, like in 3 years later, you have the Spartans come out and talk about interstellar trade routes, huge alien bases in Antarctica, all types of things. And there's more that we're going to uncover here in just a little bit about the possibility of things being in Antarctica. But it is crazy to me that they are moving an ancient weapon to Antarctica.
It makes you wonder how many of these other, if you look up incidents that have taken place, like in Mecca, like the one, the crush,
the stampede.
Yeah, there are so many of them.
Is there?
It makes you wonder if these possibly were all plasma emissions. Here's an essentially exact same thing happened July 3rd, 1990. 1,426 people were suffocated and trampled to death. And then you have other like one-off incidents. There was a big hostile fire or hostile collapse, killing 76 people. Fire killing 217 to 300 people. It's almost like it's sacrificial.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I want to find out more about the Ark of Gabriel, because it just sounds so fucking cool. It really does.
Here's 363 in 2006 Stampeder crush. The body count surrounding it is just,
and it's hard telling, because I would if the Russian Orthodox Church had the manuscript from Gabriel to Muhammad, that means they 100% knew the Ark of Gabriel was in existence, right?
Yep.
So who's to say that people haven't known its location for a long time and don't go down there and fuck with it once in a while?
Yeah.
Prior, all individuals working with one another. Because like I said, if Russia had issues with Saudi Arabia or whomever, you're not going to share the manuscript. You give a fuck less about it.
Yep.
Right. So maybe the Saudi Arabia knew of its location, or maybe they accidentally stumbled on it prior to the excavation. Who knows? And they were messing with it and caused these emissions, which then they covered up with more natural causes.
Yeah. Which is crazy. It's crazy. 1994. Possibly. Did I already read that one? Yeah. 270 people killed. That's a lot of blood on that ground.
Oh yeah. Not to mention its overall history.
Yeah. When
you speak in that context of blood on the ground. Moving forward to another thread that I started to follow. It involves the living legend Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah. Yeah. I should have mentioned that last show. We messed that up.
Yeah.
We thought we had an instance of Mandela effect, and instead we had an instance of foggy brain memory.
Yeah.
So we apologize.
It happens.
For messing that up. We were pretty sure we were remembering the passing of Linda Godfrey, of
Yeah.
the Dogman journalist, R.I.P.
Yep.
And Linda Moulton Howe is.
And I'm glad. I
definitely
am
alive.
definitely glad that she's still alive and kicking, because she does a lot of really fantastic work.
Yes.
She really does.
Just clearing that up,
Yeah.
because we had a lot of people reach out
Yeah.
from the woodwork being like, what?
Yeah.
We gotta figure it out now.
Yep. So it's cleared up. But and wouldn't you like to be in her shoes? She receives another amazing letter coming from a retired U.S. Navy engineer, former first class flight non-commissioned officer, codenamed Brian. He tells of his flights between 1983 and 97 down in Antarctica. Brian would fly essentially rescue missions and support research operations. During some of his flight, he witnessed silvery flying saucers. Brian and his crew would also witness ancient ruins of a quote-unquote alien city and a large hole in the ice about 5 to 10 miles from the South Pole, which at the time, and probably still is a no-fly zone. And the rumor behind that is it is I forget the exact verbiage, but essentially they're taking air samples from that area. And Brian's like, this doesn't really make any sense because we've kind of flown through that area before, but whatever. One day during an emergency, Brian tells how he and his crew entered a quote unquote no alien fly zone and saw things that they were not supposed to see. He witnessed an entrance to a base of a human alien scientific research facility. Later on, in a field near Reappeared Land, a dozen scientists disappear for 2 weeks, only to later reappear.
What?
Brian and his crew were sent to rescue these scientists. When they got to this group of scientists, Brian said that none of them spoke. They all sat in silence, and the looks on their faces was of pure terror. And in regards to this group, to make the image a little bit more clear, I found a little bit more information later on it, on this actual story. Brian and his crew were the ones that actually dropped off the scientists as well. They drop them off in this area for research. They left the crew and supplies. All the while this crew was down in this area to research, they had comms, and they would constantly keep in contact with McMurdo Station. Well, one day the comms essentially go out. Don't hear from him anymore. And so they dispatch Brian and his crew to go pick up all these scientists. Brian and his crew gets there and is like, there's fucking nobody here. Not a soul. So McMurdo's like, all right, come back and we'll figure it out, because there's no reason to keep you guys down there if nobody's around. Later on, I'm assuming that the group checks in over comms or something. Brian and crew get dispatched to pick them up. That's when they're like, all these people sat in silence. None of them would talk. They looked terrified. Once Brian and crew get back to McMurdo, the group of scientists were instantly, like, off of Brian and crew's plane onto another plane that was apparently headed to New Zealand, which I could be wrong, but if memory serves, I want to say we had somebody in Discord that talked about seeing flights to Antarctica from New Zealand. Like, there was a special.
Oh, I do remember that now.
Yeah. Like, they have their own special checkout. They had to get scanned for biometrics and all that shit.
Yes, I do remember that.
So supposedly scientists were headed there. And Brian said that group of scientists were never heard from again. They 100% disappeared. And it's unclear, did they legitimately disappear, or did they just vanish from Antarctica? That's a main question. Because obviously, in my opinion, when they got back, whatever governmental power was at play, they wanted to interrogate all of the members on what happened. And so they took them to interrogate them and figure out what happened. That doesn't mean that they legitimately disappeared. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It could be that they were just removed from Antarctica for the entirety from that then forward. They're not going back. Or did something more nefarious happen to them? I could see that too. And we're not going to run the risk of you talking about what happened down there. It's not elaborated in any information that I was able to find on what happened to these scientists, where they disappeared to, anything. It's also interesting when it comes to Brian's story and seeing ancient ruins and stuff, because it sounds so much like Admiral Byrd in his journey down there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as these scientists and stuff, like I said, the scientists, they get shipped off to New Zealand. All of their equipment was loaded onto another plane and escorted with intelligence personnel to the United States. So they had the equipment guarded the entire flight to the United States. Rumors circulated about the area they weren't allowed to fly, which was by the South Pole. Scientists would talk and tell about how humans were working with EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities, in that location. Brian and his crew, they were no joke. They had over 4,000 hours of flight in the area. And they knew all of the planes in the area, because Brian would say stuff like they were ours. We were the only ones flying down there. But like I said, during his flights, he would see those silvery crafts in the area. And he said when he got to this specific mountain range is when he would see these craft in the same spot every time. And it almost feels like these were some type of sentries or watch out, because you kind of hear the same story from Admiral Byrd. Whenever he crosses a certain point down there, he starts seeing these craft as he's entering, getting closer to this city. And those craft in Admiral Byrd's story, they essentially escort him to said city.
That's interesting.
It's crazy that it does it matches with Admiral Byrd's story.
Yeah. That is interesting.
But I also found some articles on how the United States Navy and NASA have a fully operational space fleet. Furthermore, if the U.S. has this technology, you can bet that other countries as well have said technology. I'm not even going to remotely be foolish enough to sit and think that we'd be the only ones to figure it out. However, I'm aware that our search results are also semi-curated to where we live. Supposedly, a Senator Daniel K. Inouye made a comment on how there exists a shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself. If anyone has any information on said group, please let me know. I'm very curious how a entity that claims to be a shadow government has its own naval fleet, its own air force, its own way of funding itself outside of the arms of our governments of the world. I feel like that's pretty interesting. I also acknowledge the fact that a simple explanation for that would be like a contractor type situation.
Yeah.
Because contractors are kind of notorious for being able to skirt around these quote unquote checks and balances. They don't have to play by the same set of rules, essentially. And not to mention, another way around this is if Steve's doing something, I just don't ask Steve questions about what he's doing. And then therefore, I can't be held accountable for what Steve's doing.
It would have to be, I mean, you would almost feel like it would have to be, I don't know, privately funded if it's not a governmental entity.
Yeah.
In order for it to have its own navy and everything. Like that's some
That's a big undertaking.
big money going into that.
Oh,
whatever it is.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I said if anybody has information on this, let me know, because that's got to be huge. Fucking huge. And like I said, I apologize. The story is chaotic. It's chaos. Because it's literally I'm just finding as much information on the area and the, at least, even if it alludes to the possibility of some type of interstellar trade, I'm going to try to chase that down.
I feel like it's all important puzzle pieces.
That's how I felt when I was reading all this. I'm like, they all fit in their own way.
It's good to have the information gathered because, I mean,
Yeah,
clearly there's big interest down there for whatever reason.
Yep. And to kind of begin to close out the episode, as from the quote that I just read, I also found other quotes from whistleblowers that have come forward that I'm gonna start to get into. But as I said, I'm gonna keep pulling this thread because I found articles on Solar Warden, the Dark Fleet, even the treaty with President Eisenhower. And if you ask me, that treaty in itself, in a roundabout way, links in with this interstellar trade, because they made agreements back then.
Yep.
You know, we've heard I don't think we've actually like deep dive into that said treaty, but we've heard stories about how in regards to trade, all right, we'll give you guys technology, you allow us to essentially abduct X amount of people and run that is trade,
which 100% falls in line with your missing scientists.
yeah that sucks.
Yeah,
that fucking sucks.
When you said Eisenhower Treaty, I'm like, well, that's where your scientists went.
It's possible,
which is, yeah, sucks is a good word for it.
Yeah. And I showed Steve one of the books. I found some books that I'm going to try to pick up and dig in and see what if I cannot link. There's even the possibility the Majestic 12 is going to fall into this. But some of these quotes, they're fucking crazy. Like this one comes from, it's kind of a weird name. It looks like Paul Hellyer, Hellyer. It's weird. But he was a former Canadian defense minister. And he says, decades ago, visitors from other planets warned us about where we were headed and offered to help. But instead, we, or at least some of us, interpreted their visits as a threat and decided to shoot first and ask questions after. Trillions, and I mean thousands of billions of dollars, have been spent on projects about which both the Congress and the commander-in-chief have been kept deliberately in the dark.
That's awesome. First off.
Yeah, and it's crazy that like most of these quotes are coming from kind of decorated people. They're not people like you and me.
I mean, they're, regardless of what's going on, something is going on.
Something is definitely going on.
Because there's so much interest from so many different facets of the planet, so many different governments of the planet. Like don't you think it's weird that in World War II they signed that treaty where we're not going to mess with Antarctica. We're not going to mess with Antarctica.
Right.
Because the only thing worse than a world war is a galactic war
that we don't know how to fight.
Yeah, and if there's a giant hub down there and we decide to World War II it, and there's casualties that aren't of this planet, then you've got a real fucking problem on your hands.
Right. And and we do make really dumb fucking decisions. Like I heard the other day, and this is kind of off topic, kind of on topic, real quick before I follow with some more of these quotes, but it was talking about the moon landing and so on and so forth, and the Van Allen radiation belt that surrounds our planet. We as humans back in the day apparently decided, there's a big fucking radiation belt around our planet. Huh. Steve, I got a really good idea. You know what we should do?
Fly through it.
We should blow it up.
Oh.
They shot nukes at it.
Yeah.
And guess what it did?
Shot nukes back.
It charged itself. It made itself more powerful.
Good.
That's how intelligent we are.
I expected nothing less, honestly.
That's literally how intelligent we can be at times.
It tracks.
Yeah.
It tracks.
Yeah. Who the fuck is in charge of firing nukes? I feel like that is literally an idea you and me would come up with.
Oh yeah.
Let's just shoot it.
And shooting nukes into space is like putting a giant welcome sign, like, hey,
here we are.
Come and look at what these idiots are doing.
Yeah.
Come over here, watchers and observers. Watch these fucking idiots take themselves out.
Yep. That's how smart we are.
We are not a species that's meant to last.
No, sir. But another quote here from Dr. Brian O'Leary, former NASA astronaut and Princeton physics professor. There's an abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been monitoring us for a very long time, that their appearance is bizarre from any type of traditional materialistic Western point of view, that these visitors use the technologies of consciousness, they use toroids, they use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems that seem to be a common denominator of the UFO phenomenon.
What the fuck is a toroid?
I have no fucking clue. TOROIDS. No clue what that is.
In mathematics, a toroid is a surface of revolution with a hole in the middle. The axis of the revolution passes through the hole, so it does not intersect.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah.
Sounds very smart, and I'm not.
Me either. It just looks like a donut.
It does look like a donut. Well, we figured that one out.
Solved.
Gordon Cooper, former NASA astronaut, aeronautical engineer, and test pilot. In my opinion, I think I think they were worried that it would panic the public if they knew that someone had vehicles that had this kind of performance. So they started telling lies about it. And then I think they had to cover another lie, tell another lie to cover their first lie. Now they don't know how to get out of it. Now it's going to be so embarrassing to admit that all these administrations have told a lot of untruths and that there are a number of extraterrestrial vehicles out there cruising around.
I love it.
This guy's title is kind of fucking gangster. Lord Admiral Hill Norton, former Chief of Defense Staff, 5-star Admiral of the Royal Navy, Chairman of the NATO Military Committee. So he's pretty legit.
Excuse me, Admiral. No, it's Lord Admiral to you.
That's fucking gangster, dude. But he says there are objects in our atmosphere which are technically miles in advance of anything we can deploy. that we have no means of stopping them coming here, and that there is a serious possibility that we are being visited and have been visited for many years by people from outer space, from other civilizations, that it behooves us, in case some of these people in the future or now should turn hostile, to find out who they are, where they come from, and what they want. This should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation and not the subject of rubbishing by tabloid newspapers.
He is behooved.
He is. But so you have high-ranking people across the world making claims about contact, some of which
Lords and admirals.
Yes.
And sometimes both.
Some of these claims they're hard to find. Most of these quotes and conversations I haven't heard before. I know that's not saying a whole lot because me and Steve are relatively fucking noobs. But regardless, it's there. I realize that in a roundabout way, all this information doesn't necessarily fall in with the Antarctica story. But as we were talking about earlier, and Steve kind of hit it on the head, I feel like it's all pieces to the same puzzle. Because if you look at fleets like space fleets like the Dark Fleet, there's even, the supposed American Intergalactic Space Fleet, Solar Warden. That is interstellar travel. That is getting out there. And why would we not at some point begin to trade?
Yeah. And if you look throughout history, what essentially exists for you to need some sort of protection agency, a trade route?
Yeah.
If you have people out there essentially pirating goods you're trying to exchange with other civilizations, you're going to need a warden. You're going to need a space fleet. You're going to need that kind of shit.
You also have people like Gary McKinnon, who I'm going to look into as well, who hacked the Pentagon's files and supposedly found evidence of a space fleet and the possibility of the quote-unquote non-terrestrial officers, which I think most of you remember that when that information came out.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
This all slots right in. Even the 20 and back stories, it slots in. Like I said, pieces of the same puzzle. Even the Amy Eskridge falls into this overarching story.
Yeah.
The question is what do we have available for trade?
Human soul.
And it just comes down to, it just depends on the situation. It comes down to things like, because we talked about minerals and so on and so forth that are abundant. But what resources do the aliens have? What are they in need of? What type of experiments do they wish to accomplish? I saw an article that would suggest that it could be they're after our DNA. That is one of the main trading sources. However, if you think about it, with abductions in the realm of possibility, why do they need to trade for DNA? Why don't they just fucking take it?
Yeah.
They just jack us.
That's true.
And also, let's assume for whatever reason that they can't. They can't get our DNA through abductions or so on and so forth. Let's just pretend that's off the table. So you mean to tell me it's a good idea to give an outsider essentially the keys of the kingdom and just let them have our DNA and start running experiments with it
via trade,
dude?
Depends. It makes you wonder what we're getting in return.
Yeah, but I'm saying like through the keys of DNA, you're talking you're the possibility of cloning, viruses, hybrids, all types of things.
Yeah,
that play out to a negative for us.
Complete replacement of the entire race.
Yeah. So that's essentially what I've been able to uncover so far. Like I said, I've got a million other stories pulled up. I'm going to dig through Solar Warden, the Dark Fleet, Eisenhower deal, all the while trying to keep a compass pointed at Antarctica. So if you have any crazy articles or information that I'm not currently finding, Shoot it over to me. Give me some links. Let me start digging into this shit. I haven't even gotten into watching like YouTube videos and shit yet.
That
trying to
Ark
do
of
a lot of-
Gabriel really
Dude, that's so fucking
piqued
cool.
my interest. Especially if there's like paper trail, like evidence trail, that's fucking crazy. Obviously something down there is worthwhile because so many governments and so many head people are interested and keep booking flights down there and flying around.
And it's not an easy environment to exist in.
No. It makes you wonder why is that why that area is so sought after, because there aren't a lot of witnesses down there. There's no population down there. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Intergalactically trade human souls down there, and there's not a lot of people to watch you do it.
Right. Fuck, for all I know, it's not even cold down there. I'll never know because I ain't going there. They say it's cold, and I'm not going.
Was it McMurdo that was the one that we Google walked through that was full of all the weird shit?
I feel like it was.
Like alien skulls and shit?
Yeah, I feel like it was. I'm not sure, but I feel like it was.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That shit's weird as fuck.
Dude, it's crazy.
Which would, I mean, it would link right up with the episode if there were intergalactic trade. They bring souvenirs and shit back from the intergalactic trades, and it's just on display down there.
Yep.
Sucks.
And it also made me when we got that message on Discord about them being like having to go through biometrics and shit, it really made me think outside the box for a quick second. It makes sense that they would want to scan for biometrics, because if you're going into a place like that, I look at it like, for whatever reason, they want to, at the bare minimum, they want to be able to research this area for what is in this area. They don't even want to take the possibility that Steve, on the underneath of his boot, brings a sunflower seed to the area, because they want to know what is here. They don't want the possibility of us dragging outside information into this area, which like for me raises a lot of questions. Why do you want it that isolated?
Yeah, it could also fall into like, these people that are going down there are part of the trade, part of interacting with people from, or entities from other galaxies, and they don't want some sort of, archaic human virus to essentially infect these other races and wipe them out.
That's another. Well, think about that on the opposite end.
Exactly. Which would probably why they're checking biometrics when they come out.
That's a fucking good point. I didn't think about that. You think that is a real fucking possibility, because how many times throughout our humans history do a group of people go to like an island with people who haven't been visited by anyone, and they get jacked because we bring new diseases with us that their bodies haven't been acclimated to fight yet.
Yep. It could be something as asinine as the common cold.
Yeah.
Where it's just something that they don't have on their home world, and they could just run roughshod through the entire population. Then
absolutely.
Then you don't have anybody to intergalactically trade with because you killed them on accident.
You murked them all. You murked them all.
It's weird.
It is like you said, without question, it points to something is definitely going on down that way. And not only is the United States interested, but most of the governments of the world are interested in what's going on down there. And which is, that should be alarming enough.
The fact that they're coexisting and kind of all on the same page about it is
absolutely
sus.
Absolutely.
Whenever you have a bunch of power brokers on the same page that are normally not on the same page, it's sus.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And like I said, I'm kind of excited to kind of keep this rabbit hole going and just pull on the thread in whatever direction it takes me and kind of see where we end up. Because without that, I wouldn't have found the Ark of Gabriel, which, like I said, is probably one of the most exciting articles I've read in a hot minute.
Oh yeah, I feel like if you grab that book, that's a series of episodes, and it's
I'm gonna try. I will buy that book. I will definitely buy that book because I am 100% fascinated with this possibility.
I love that it's like right now that we're just scratching the surface. It's like a grab bag of Antarctica weirdness.
Yeah.
Like, because you'll click a tab and we don't know what we're gonna get next.
That's pretty much exactly how I'm writing it. As I'm just going down,
I fuck with that.
Going through as much information as I can possibly sift through. And like I said, it would take me way too long to try to organize it with the plot line.
Oh yeah, fuck that.
And it wouldn't, like, I would not get anything done. So I'm, like I said, it's going to be chaos. It is going to be erratic as all hell. But just buckle up and ride with us because we will find more. I'm hope and pray we find more things like the Ark of Gabriel.
I'd never heard of that.
Me either. I'm still so excited about it. It's so
crazy.
fucking cool.
Especially if it has the ability to plasma wipe out thousands of people at one time. Yeah. That's terrifying.
Yeah. And it's meant for Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And they moved it to fucking Antarctica where there's a bunch of weirdos.
Yeah. And if they're trading souls, what better giant soul trading event than the fucking rapture?
Yeah. I don't know. It's cool, man. It's cool.
It is cool. I'm excited to see where this goes.
I am as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, Holocult, that'll about do it for this week's episode of the Intergalactarctica weirdness. It's awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. Check us out at all our socials: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky Podcast. You know the drill. And until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and if you have any info on the Ark of Gabriel, shoot us some links. We're about to get in on it. About to get it.